What if everything you were taught about getting ahead is actually what's keeping you stuck? Think about that for a second. Not quitting your job dramatically, not posting some bold wake-up call on social media. Just quietly, almost invisibly, deciding to stop playing the game everyone else is still grinding through. You've seen these people. One day they're all in. LinkedIn updates every week, gunning for the next promotion, scheduling every hour like their life depends on it. And then they're just gone. Not broke, not desperate, not running from something, just different. Smaller place, fewer hours, zero interest in the title chase. And somehow, they look calmer than anyone still in the race. So here's the question that should be making you a little uncomfortable right now. If the system rewards hustle, status, and always wanting more, why do these people seem perfectly fine walking away from all of it? And more importantly, what do they know that you don't? Because if you're being honest with yourself, you've felt it too. That gut punch moment when your paycheck hits the account and it's basically gone before the 20th. That exhaustion from keeping up with something you're not even sure you want anymore. You did everything right. Studied, worked hard, stayed consistent. You were promised stability. But the finish line keeps moving. More money, more bills. More responsibility, less time. More success, somehow more pressure. Nobody warned you about that part. And that's exactly what this video is going to change. Because I'm not here to give you another budget better speech. I'm going to show you something most financial content completely ignores. Not just how money works, but how your brain has been trained to chase it in a very specific, very predictable way. You'll understand why the rat race feels almost addictive, why it's so hard to pump the brakes, and why some people manage to step out without financially falling apart. More than that, you'll walk away with practical ways to rethink your money, your investments, and your relationship with financial decisions that actually put you back in the driver's seat. Not theory, not motivational fluff. Real patterns, real behavior, real moves. Because here's the truth most people can't see while they're still inside the system. You don't have a money problem. You have a perception problem. You're optimizing for things that look valuable while quietly bleeding your time, your energy, and your long-term freedom. And once you see that clearly, and I mean really see it, you can't unsee it. But I have to be straight with you about something. The moment you start questioning how this system works, it doesn't get easier. It gets uncomfortable. Because now you're not just managing money, you're confronting the way you've been taught to measure your entire worth. And what looks like a simple financial decision is actually something much deeper. So before we go further, this video is not about quitting your job. It's not about rejecting ambition. And this is not financial advice, it's financial education. Everything here is meant to help you think more clearly about your own situation. Your decisions are yours to make. It's about recognizing the invisible forces shaping your behavior with money and learning how to respond differently. Because what looks like success from the outside might be costing you more than you've ever calculated. And what looks like stepping back might actually be the first move forward. But to understand that, we need to go somewhere most financial content never takes you. Most people believe they're fully in control of their financial choices. They think they picked their goals, their lifestyle, their level of ambition. But slow down and actually watch your own behavior for a second. And a completely different pattern shows up. Why do you feel a surge when your income goes up? Why does a promotion feel like relief, even when your workload just doubled? And why, after just a few weeks of satisfaction, does everything reset back to that same not enough feeling? That cycle isn't random. It's predictable. And it's engineered. Your brain is running reward software that was written thousands of years ago. Back then, survival meant recognizing progress fast. More food meant safety. Higher status meant protection. So your brain evolved to fire a reward signal for anything that looks like advancement. And today, money, titles, and recognition all trigger that exact same ancient system. When your salary increases, your brain releases dopamine, not because you're actually safer long-term, but because it reads that change as progress. That's why chasing financial growth feels almost addictive. It's not a character flaw, it's chemistry. But here's where it gets complicated. Modern financial life is built to keep that loop running non-stop. You don't just get rewarded once, you get small, continuous hits. A bank notification, a quarterly bonus, a colleague complimenting you in front of the whole team. Each one feels minor, but together, they create a loop. You work more leads to you, earn more leads to you, upgrade your lifestyle, leads to. And suddenly, your new normal requires the next income level. This is what people call the rat race. But it's not just a cultural thing, it's a neurological loop, reinforced by financial behavior. You don't feel trapped because you're weak. You feel trapped because your system is working exactly the way it was designed. Let me show you how this actually plays out in real life. Meet Daniel, 27 years old, just landed a job making $3,000 a month. He feels it, finally, stability. Within a year, he upgrades his apartment, better phone, starts eating out a few nights a week. Nothing crazy, just small improvements. Then his salary jumps to $4,500. For a moment, Daniel feels powerful, like he's actually getting somewhere. But within a few months, his expenses adjust. Better car, more subscriptions, higher expectations. And now, $4,500 feels normal, not exciting, not impressive, just necessary. So he aims for $6,000, not because he's greedy, but because his brain has recalibrated what enough even means. This has a name. It's called the Hedonic Treadmill, and it explains why progress rarely feels like progress for long. No matter how much you earn, your baseline shifts. What used to feel like luxury becomes routine. What used to feel like success becomes pressure. Now stack something else on top of that. Social comparison. You're not just measuring your life against your past self anymore. You're measuring it against everyone around you. Colleagues buying houses, friends traveling, people online showing their most curated version of a perfect life. Your brain processes all of that as relative status. And status still matters, even when you consciously tell yourself it doesn't, because your nervous system never got that memo. Historically, falling behind in status meant real risk, so when you see others moving ahead, it creates this low-grade pressure, not panic, but discomfort. And that discomfort keeps you in motion. You work harder, push for more, stay in the race. Not because you love it, but because slowing down feels genuinely dangerous. Here's what standard financial content almost never covers. Most advice tells you to increase your income, get a better job, start investing, build multiple streams. And those things matter, they absolutely work. But if you don't understand the psychological loop underneath, you end up accelerating the same cycle. More income without awareness? It usually leads to more dependency on that income. You don't just earn more, you start to need more. And over time, that need becomes your identity. What do? I'm a senior manager. I'm a director. I run a team. Your role becomes your reference point. Your worth gets tied to your output. Your progress gets tied to external validation. And slowly, without ever noticing the exact moment it happened, you stop asking the one question that actually matters. Is this the life I actually want? or just the life I've adapted to? Because adaptation is powerful. Humans can normalize almost anything. Long hours, chronic stress, constant pressure. As long as there's a reward somewhere at the end, your brain justifies all of it. This is temporary. It'll pay off. Just one more level. But those levels don't end. They evolve. The target moves. The expectations climb. And what started as a strategy for financial growth becomes a system you feel obligated to maintain. Now here's where something subtle starts happening for a certain group of people. The rewards start losing their charge. The promotion lands, but the excitement is weaker than before. The raise hits the account, but the relief fades faster. The lifestyle upgrades, but the satisfaction doesn't scale. At first, they brush it off. I'm just tired. I need a bigger goal. But the pattern keeps repeating, and a quiet question starts forming. If this is working, why doesn't it feel like it is? That question is uncomfortable, because it challenges the entire structure you've built your life around. Most people don't explore it. They double down instead. More effort, more ambition, bigger goals, hoping the feeling eventually catches up with the achievement. But a small group of people, they sit with that question. And what they start to realize changes everything. Because the issue isn't just how much they're earning, it's what their brain has been trained to value. And once that realization begins, the system they've been following starts to feel very different. Not wrong, but incomplete. And that's where the shift begins. Quietly. That quiet shift doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No announcement, no clear turning point anyone else can point to. It starts internally. The raise hits your account, and instead of relief, there's just a pause. You expected more emotion, more validation, more something. But it's just numbers. You rationalize it at first. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I need a bigger goal. So you keep going, but the pattern repeats. The next milestone feels smaller. The next win fades faster. And then, the question you can't shake. What if the issue isn't the size of the reward, but how your brain is responding to it? This is where it gets genuinely interesting, because not everyone processes this shift the same way. Some people stay fully locked in the cycle. Status and income keep them fired up. But others start to value those same rewards differently. Not rejecting them, not ignoring them, just valuing them less. And this isn't philosophy. This is documented behavioral science. Research in behavioral economics and neuroscience shows that people evaluate trade-offs differently based on how their brain weights reward. For most people, immediate gains carry the most emotional weight. More money now, more recognition now. The brain responds fast. The signal is loud. But some individuals develop what researchers call flexibility in temporal discounting. In plain terms, they stop automatically treating the present as more valuable than the future. They can feel future consequences more clearly. Picture two choices. Option 1, 20% salary increase, but 20% more of your time and energy gone. Option 2, stability, flexibility, and actual time, but less status. For most people, option 1 feels like a win. The signal is immediate and visible. But for someone whose perception has shifted, option 2 starts carrying real weight. Not emotionally dramatic, cognitively clear. They start asking different questions. How will I feel about this decision in 5 years? What does this actually cost me beyond money? What am I really optimizing for here? And once those questions become consistent, the entire decision-making process changes. Now here's where the shift goes even deeper, because it's not just about thinking differently, it's about feeling differently. Brain imaging research shows that when individuals evaluate rewards, certain areas activate depending on perceived value. In people who are highly driven by status, those reward centers light up strongly for income and recognition. But in others, that response becomes quieter. Not gone, just lower volume. Like turning down the noise on something that used to dominate your attention. And when that happens, space opens up. Space to notice things that were previously invisible. Time, energy, mental clarity. The people you actually care about. These things don't come with applause. They don't show up on a paycheck. But over time, their value becomes impossible to ignore. Now, and this is important, this doesn't mean someone suddenly rejects money or ambition. That's the misconception most people make. The shift isn't about abandoning financial growth. It's about redefining its role. Money stops being the scoreboard of your worth and becomes a tool, a means, not an identity. From the outside, this looks like someone losing drive, like settling. But internally, the process is far more deliberate. Because stepping away from a system that's been rewarding you requires clarity. You're not reacting, you're choosing. And that choice usually comes after a period of internal friction, where you start noticing the inconsistencies. Earning more than ever, feeling less satisfied than ever, hitting milestones, questioning what they're even for, always busy, but not fulfilled. Part of you still responds to the old signals. You still feel the pull toward recognition. You still understand the value of growth. But another part of you is asking harder questions. What is this costing me long term? What happens if I keep going exactly like this for another decade? Is there a different way to structure my life? Those questions don't get quieter, they get louder. And this shift rarely happens in isolation. Sometimes it's burnout. But even without a dramatic event, the accumulation of small realizations can bring you to the exact same place. And once that awareness is present, your brain starts recalibrating. What used to feel urgent loses intensity. What used to feel optional gains importance. And this directly changes your financial decisions. You start questioning expenses, not from a scarcity mindset, but from a value perspective. Do I actually need this, or am I just maintaining an image? You reconsider investments, not just for returns, but for time horizon and lifestyle impact. You think about income differently, not just maximizing it, but structuring it. Flexibility starts to matter. Autonomy starts to matter. And instead of asking, how can I earn more? You start asking, how can I need less and still live really well? That one question shifts everything. Because it reduces dependency. It lowers your pressure threshold. It increases optionality. And optionality is a form of power most people never think to build. But here's the challenge. Once your brain starts valuing this stuff, you can't easily go back. You can still operate in the old system, still perform, still earn, still grow. But it feels different, less automatic, more conscious, and sometimes more conflicted. Because now you see both sides with total clarity. The benefits of staying in the race and the real cost of never stepping back. And that awareness creates a decision. Not immediate, not obvious, but inevitable. Do you keep optimizing for external rewards, or do you start designing your life around internal ones? And that decision is where everything starts to change. But even without a dramatic event, the accumulation of small realizations can bring you to the exact same place. And once that awareness is present, your brain starts recalibrating. What used to feel urgent loses intensity. What used to feel optional gains importance. And this directly changes your financial decisions. You start questioning expenses, not from a scarcity mindset, but from a value perspective. Do I actually need this, or am I just maintaining an image? You reconsider investments, not just for returns, but for time horizon and lifestyle impact. You think about income differently, not just maximizing it, but structuring it. Flexibility starts to matter. Autonomy starts to matter. And instead of asking, how can I earn more? You start asking, how can I need less and still live really well? That one question shifts everything, because it reduces dependency. It lowers your pressure threshold. It increases optionality. And optionality is a form of power most people never think to build. But here's the challenge. Once your brain starts valuing this stuff, you can't easily go back. You can still operate in the old system, still perform, still earn, still grow. But it feels different, less automatic, more conscious, and sometimes more conflicted. Because now you see both sides with total clarity. The benefits of staying in the race and the real cost of never stepping back. And that awareness creates a decision. Not immediate, not obvious, but inevitable. Do you keep optimizing for external rewards, or do you start designing your life around internal ones? And that decision is where everything starts to change. Here's what most people are completely unprepared for. Once you see the pattern, you expect clarity to follow automatically. It doesn't. In fact, this is where things get more complicated. Awareness doesn't remove pressure, it increases it. You see the system clearly now, but you're still inside it. Your bills haven't disappeared. Your responsibilities didn't pause. And the same environment that shaped your behavior is still influencing you every single day. So instead of a clean break, you experience friction, internal friction. Part of you wants to slow down. Another part reminds you what's at stake. What if I lose momentum? What if I regret this? What if I'm making a huge mistake? Those thoughts aren't irrational. They're protective. Your brain is trying to maintain stability, because from its perspective, stepping away from a known structure looks exactly like uncertainty, and uncertainty feels like danger. This is where most people turn back, not because they're not smart enough, but because the perceived cost of change feels too high. But for those who keep going, something deeper starts to emerge. They begin confronting the real layers of this decision. The first layer is identity. For years, maybe decades, your work has been your answer to the most common question in America. What do you do? I'm in finance. I manage operations. I lead a team of 40. It's not just information, it's positioning. It tells people where you stand. It tells you where you stand. So when you start questioning that path, you're not just adjusting your calendar, you're destabilizing your identity. And underneath all the logic, there's a quiet voice. If I'm not chasing this anymore, who am I? No immediate answer comes. And that gap creates real tension. The second layer is social pressure. The people around you are still running the same program. They understand promotions. They understand salary increases. Those signals are familiar. But when you step outside that framework, you're working less? You turned that down? Wait, are you okay? The concern sounds genuine. Sometimes it actually is. But there's something else underneath it. Deviation. You're breaking the expected pattern. And that makes people uncomfortable, because it quietly forces them to question their own choices. So they push back. Subtly, not aggressively, but consistently. And over time, that pressure adds real weight to your decision. The third layer is money itself. This is where the emotional and the practical collide hard. When you reduce your income or choose a path with a lower financial ceiling, you introduce real constraints. Your margin decreases, your projections change, and even if you've planned carefully, what if something unexpected hits? What if I need more later? These aren't abstract fears, they're grounded in reality. And that's exactly why this stage requires more than a mindset shift. It requires strategy. Without a clear financial structure, the pressure will pull you straight back into the system you're trying to step out of. The fourth layer, and this one genuinely surprises people, is structure. When you're fully in the race, your time is defined. Targets, deadlines, metrics, a scoreboard. You know exactly what progress looks like. You know what winning feels like. But when you step away from that structure, no scoreboard, no external validation, no obvious definition of winning. At first, that feels like freedom, but after a while, it becomes disorienting. How do I know if I had a good day? What am I actually building toward? Without clear answers, your mind starts searching for direction, and sometimes it tries to recreate the exact same patterns it just escaped. You replace one form of pressure with another, not because you want to, but because your brain is used to operating that way. This is where people misread the transition. They expect stepping out of the race to deliver immediate peace. Instead, it introduces a different kind of challenge, a more subtle one. Instead of external pressure, you're now facing internal responsibility. You have to define your own priorities. You have to decide what matters, and that decision cannot be outsourced to anyone. Some people start to miss pieces of the old system. Not the stress, but the clarity, the measurable progress, knowing exactly where you stand. And without that, there's a gap. This doesn't mean the decision was wrong. It means the transition is incomplete. Because stepping away from something doesn't automatically create something new. You have to build that intentionally, through experimentation, different routines, different work rhythms, different ways of investing your time and money. Some things work, others don't. And every adjustment teaches you something real about what you actually value. This is the stage where most people either evolve or quietly return to their previous pattern. Because the discomfort is real. The uncertainty is real. The absence of immediate external validation is real. But if you stay in it long enough, something starts to stabilize. Your decisions become less reactive, more intentional. You stop chasing signals. You start creating them. You define what progress means, not by title, but by alignment. How did I use my time today? Did this move me closer to the life I actually want? These questions start replacing the old metrics, and slowly, a new system forms. Not as rigid, not as externally driven, but far more accurate to who you actually are. And that's when the shift becomes visible, not to everyone around you, but to you. Because now, your financial decisions, your time, your energy, they're no longer tied to automatic responses. They're connected to conscious choices. And that changes everything. But here's the part most people aren't ready for. Even after all of this, there's one more layer. And it's the one that determines whether this shift becomes sustainable or just another phase that fades. Here's where we cut the theory and get real. Because up to this point, you've seen the pattern, you've felt the tension, you understand the system. But none of that moves the needle if you don't translate it into action. This is the part most people avoid, not because they don't understand it, but because action means commitment. And commitment means you can't hide behind, "I'm still thinking about it." So let's build your structure. Step 1. Get brutally clear on what this is actually costing you. And I don't mean money. I mean life cost. How many hours are you trading for your income right now? How much mental bandwidth does your work actually consume? And what are you postponing because of it? Health? Time with people you actually care about? Rest? Projects that genuinely light you up? Most people track money obsessively and never track these variables once. That's why they feel trapped. They're maximizing one metric while unconsciously bleeding everything else. So write it down, not in your head, on paper. Make the invisible visible. Because once you can see the real cost of your current setup, your decisions naturally start to shift. Step 2. Define what enough actually looks like in a number. Sounds simple, brutally hard to execute. Because your brain has been conditioned to keep expanding the target. More income, more comfort, more status. So when you try to put a hard number on enough, there's resistance. What if it's not enough? What if I need more later? That fear doesn't disappear, but you don't need certainty. You need a working number. Calculate your actual essential expenses. Add a real margin for flexibility, not fantasy numbers. Define a lifestyle that feels sustainable, not impressive to others. This becomes your baseline, not your ceiling, your foundation. And once you have it, you gain something most people never build. A reference point that isn't constantly moving on you. Step 3. Reduce dependency before you reduce income. This is where the most common mistake happens. People feel the urge to step back and act too fast. But without preparation, the pressure comes back twice as hard. Instead, create breathing room first. Audit your expenses, not with a restriction mindset, with an intention mindset. What are you paying for out of pure habit? What are you maintaining for appearances? Subscriptions you forgot you had, upgrades that felt necessary but aren't, convenience costs that compound faster than your investments. You don't have to cut everything. Just eliminate what doesn't align with the life you're actually building. Each reduction increases your flexibility. Each adjustment lowers your required income. And that changes your options. Step 4. Build optional income streams, not for scale, for stability. This is where personal finance and investing become practical tools, not abstract goals. Start simple. Automated investments, index funds, dividend-producing assets. If you have a marketable skill, build a secondary income source. Freelance, consulting, digital products. The goal isn't to replace your primary income overnight. It's to reduce reliance on a single source. Because dependency creates pressure, and pressure limits your decisions. Even one small additional income stream changes how you think about risk. Step 5. Redesign your time before you redesign your career. Most people assume the solution is a brand new job, but the strategy that often works better, a new structure within the life you already have. Can you negotiate flexibility? Adjust your schedule? Reduce hours gradually? Instead of a full exit, create a transition. Test what your life actually feels like with more time. Then observe honestly. Do you rest? Do you build something? Or do you actually feel lost? Those observations are more valuable than any book you could read on this, because they show you what you're actually moving toward, not just what you're trying to leave behind. Step 6. Rebuild your internal metrics. Without this step, you will default back, guaranteed. So define new indicators of progress that actually reflect your life. Time spent on work that feels meaningful. Energy levels at the end of your day. Consistency in your investing and saving habits. Quality of your close relationships. Mental clarity, week over week. These don't replace financial metrics, they balance them. And over time, they become your real reference point. Step 7. Accept the trade-offs consciously. Here's the part no one can remove for you. You might earn less at some point. You might be perceived differently by some people in your circle. You might question your own decision at 2 a.m. sometimes. That's completely normal, because you're choosing a path without a clear external scoreboard. But here's the shift. Instead of asking, "Am I winning?" you start asking, "Am I aligned?" And that question is sustainable. Chasing isn't. Now let's address the fear that's been sitting in the background this whole time. What if I regret this? Here's the truth. Every path has regret baked into it. Staying has a cost. Stepping back has a cost. The difference is awareness. If you stay unconsciously, the cost accumulates silently, 1 month at a time. If you adjust consciously, you understand the exact trade you're making. And that understanding is what actually reduces regret. Now here's something that genuinely surprises people once they start implementing even just part of this. Your entire relationship with money changes. You stop seeing it as something to endlessly maximize. You start seeing it as something to manage intentionally. You invest differently, not chasing the hottest returns, but prioritizing stability and consistency. You save differently, not out of fear, but out of preparation. You spend differently, not to impress anyone, but to genuinely support the life you want. And over time, this creates a different kind of financial position. Not necessarily bigger, but stronger, because it's aligned with how you actually want to live. When you combine all of this, lower dependency, a clear baseline, multiple income streams, intentional use of your time, you create something most people never reach: optionality. The actual ability to choose, not based on pressure, based on preference. That's where the real shift happens. You're no longer reacting to the system, you're interacting with it, using it without being used by it. And this isn't a one-time decision. It's a continuous process. Every month, every year, you adjust. Your needs change. Your priorities evolve. You revisit these steps, not because you failed, because you're refining. That's the entire difference. You're no longer chasing a fixed idea of what success is supposed to look like. You're building a system that adapts to your actual life. And once you experience that, it becomes very hard to go back. Because now you understand something most people are too busy to ever figure out. Freedom isn't about having more. It's about needing less and structuring your life accordingly. Not to judge yourself, but to see the pattern clearly. Then ask yourself one question. Is this supporting the life I want, or just maintaining the one I adapted to? From there, change one thing. Not everything. One thing. Drop one expense that doesn't add real value. Start one small, consistent investment habit. Free up one intentional hour this week. That's how real, lasting change actually works. Not through dramatic moves, but through consistent shifts, repeated over time. And here's what to watch out for. Don't romanticize stepping away from the race. It's not easier, it's different. Don't ignore financial reality. Structure matters more, not less, when you're building something new. And don't expect instant clarity. That comes from iteration, not from a single decision. Over time, something quiet begins to happen. Your stress decreases, not because life is perfect, but because your decisions are aligned. Your finances stabilize, not because you're earning the most, but because you control what you actually need. And your time starts to feel like something you actually experience, not something you're always trying to catch up to. That's the real outcome here. A life where you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. Now, the system isn't going anywhere. The pressure to earn more, compare more, optimize more, it will always be there. And some part of you might always feel the pull to go fully back into it. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're aware. Awareness doesn't remove the tension. It changes how you respond to it. So the final question isn't whether the race is right or wrong. It's whether you're choosing it or just following it. Because once you can see the difference between those two things, you can never go back to not seeing it. This content is for educational purposes only and does not constitute personalized financial advice. Every situation is unique. Consult a qualified professional before making important financial decisions. There is an invisible mechanism, almost like a magnet, that pulls people back into captivity. Silent, constant, and devastatingly effective. Knowing it exists isn't enough. You need to know how to resist it. That's exactly what the next video reveals. Recognize, break free, conquer. But only those who make it to the third video will understand how not to lose everything they've achieved. Click here. See you there.